Tim, we had to get you back on because last time we spoke,
Part 2 remix coming at ya.
You said something that's been keeping me up at night.
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous. You told me you run 30 routes, 50 plus trucks, and you have 0 admin. How is that possible?
Well, the first thing, I apologize for keeping you up at night. Let me see if I can help you resolve that.
I would appreciate that.
When we released the software in February 2022, after running it for 60 days and getting everything operational the way it was supposed to, I literally reduced my staff, eliminated all my admins. And so I don't have any admins.
So who the hell is on your team right now?
I have about, 175 robots. That do the work.
So you have drivers. It's you.
I have drivers. I don't know. I have 70 employees, but I got 5 managers.
Okay.
And I'm in 8 domiciles.
And so they're all plugged into MyGroundForce. Like
yeah.
Their daily task is log in, make sure everything's running well, and just
Yes.
using those data points.
MyGroundForce is our system of record, so everything that happens in my company is inside the software. I admit to having one spreadsheet.
Oh.
I have a recruiting spreadsheet because I can't automate recruiting. They won't let me talk to first
Chink in the armor
advantage.
there.
It is. It's frustrating. But I could automate it if they would let me. So we recruit 8 domiciles, so we have a spreadsheet with 8 tabs, and I have my own recruiter. And that's how we communicate back and forth between the management team with this shared spreadsheet. Right?
Yeah.
But it's problematic, but there's no way to fix it. That's the only spreadsheet we have for 8 domiciles. So everything runs in the system.
And I just want to break this down for anyone who's watching. So it's you have your recruiter, you have your drivers. Anyone else involved in that? Maintenance or otherwise?
Well, I have a maintenance director who runs maintenance at all 8 locations. Some of that's in-source, some of it's outsourced. I have a shop in Birmingham, so I have three mechanics, and we support 6 stations in that location. And then, of course, I have a couple operations managers.
Okay, so this is like perfect roadmap for anyone who's trying to automate, which is what we get all the time. Awesome. Talk to me about, we're walking around your booth and I'm seeing tires everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a new what is going on there?
Well, I'm a contractor, right? So I'm living this life. I spell FedEx Ground Contracting, Grind, right? So that is. So you rocket a green.
Oh yeah!
Wow, he's passionate.
Hyping you up.
Grind,
Love
stays on his
tires.
grind.
And when you look at what do you spend money on as a contractor, it's capital, it's labor, it's fuel, and then it's tires. So it's a big number. A new set of tires will cost you $8,000. And so I started doing some investigation 18 months ago. I've been working on this. What can I do on the tire side? And so then long story short, I partnered with PSI International, which is the best company in the world at this. And now we can bring to you as a contractor tire pressure and temperature dynamically. So in other words, we measure your tire pressure and temperature, we report it to the cloud, and then you have...
No. Why the hell does that matter?
Yeah.
What does it matter? Why do I care what my tire pressure is when I'm driving a semi-truck? I got a REL lease. I got a rider tractor. They do it for me. I don't deal with tires. I got a lease, Tim. You didn't think about that, did you?
Oh yeah, it affects everyone, right? So what's the number one cause of tire issues? Blowouts, right? And if you have a blowout, even if whoever you're getting your truck from is going to pay for the tire, you're going to lose the revenue for that run because FedEx is going to come save that trailer, because it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to get a tire fixed and keep rolling and make service. And so it's a revenue risk, it's a cost risk, you're still paying the driver. And so what we do with this tire pressure system is we let you know what your tire pressures are all the time. You don't have to trust the driver anymore to check the tire pressure. Yeah. And especially if you're like me and I'm in 8 domiciles, I don't have mechanics in every location. I don't have managers in every location. So I'm depending on the drivers to check tire pressures. And we all know that's not happening. Okay, so then you are just waiting for the next blowout if you don't know what's going on with your tire pressure. So now you know.
And so for people who never thought to think about their tires, and like we'll show maybe a clip of the system, but it's very simple. It's Color green, tire is good. Red, you need to do something about it. And it's a very simple system, and exactly what you said people don't realize is that it causes fuel inefficiencies, can cause blowouts. Those will just raise your costs. I'm kind of interested, do you have any metrics in terms of cost savings that you've seen, or how much people will be able to save by utilizing this?
Absolutely. So we created this package. It's only available to MyGroundForce subscribers. No one else in the country, regardless of trucking company, can get this price. So you get the cloud management system for tire pressure and temperature. You get installation. You get 6 months interest-free financing, and you get from Velocity, which is the best, largest company in the country that does deployments of telematics equipment, and you get a year's free, what they call Velo Care, which is free support on all your existing telematics devices, ELDs, cameras, whatever. That's all in one package, financed for 6 months, and it's all in the cloud now. And so they did the analysis. I installed it on my trucks.
Yeah.
I'm talking about what I did in my company. So when I talk about MyGroundForce saving me 1,000% ROI, it's because that's what it did in my company. I could prove it with the financials. So I had Velocity and TireView Live analyze the results in my fleet. And we went through my maintenance records, because I have MyGroundForce. I have all my maintenance records in one place. And they came back and said, Tim, we figure that on 50 trucks, you would save $113,000 a year. That's $2,200 a year per truck. So even if you're 20% better than me, and you might be, you're still going to save $1,800 a year per truck.
It's a nice vacation.
Well, the most important thing is there's a lot of things that go along with that. Rick's a contractor. No more tire issues. How much time does that put back in your year, right?
That's for us. That's got to be one of the most significant downtime lost miles. It's not the big issues, and when people are buying in, the first thing the questions are maintenance. Oh man, what do I do when my truck breaks down in this random place? How do I get it back? And it was a concern of ours. You get these new trucks, and we went with leases, and we're taken care of. And what we realized is that when the truck breaks down, it's not like it just stuck on the side of the road. Can't move. It can limp to off. The closest TA or Love's, or maybe it gets back to its home domicile. Mechanic comes and picks it up. Except with that damn tire blowout issue, and one thing you had said earlier. I think it's important, for our customers to really understand is when your truck breaks down, when you have a blowout, when whatever the reason that happens, the truck can't get that trailer. FedEx is going to get those loads to where they need to go. Don't you worry. But the truck is a secondary concern, and you getting paid for those miles doesn't happen anymore. So when you do have a tire blowout because you had a driver that you trusted to check the pressure or communicate with you on how much life is left in those tires, and it didn't happen, blowout, you figure you're on a team run from Woodbridge to Rialto, you're losing not just the miles there, but then the miles back. That kills your week, kills your month. All your profitability expectations are thrown out the window at that point. And so tire blowouts for us have been the most significant maintenance issue that we've had to deal with over the years.
And it's true of all contractors, right? I mean, it's not unique. It's also not unique to FedEx Ground trucking. So Maverick Transportation, which is one of the biggest flatbed fleets in the country, just equipped all their trucks with the TireView Live system. So we're not bringing to you a fly-by-night solution. This is the best solution in the world, and you get the best price in the world from MyGroundForce. And so if you are a MyGroundForce customer and you buy the TireView Live system, you're going to save $1,800 a year minimum, and the software is going to cost you $540 a year. So the TireView Live system makes the MyGroundForce software free. So you get all these robots working for you all the time in every single aspect of your company for free, because the TireView Live system will pay for it every single year. And then Rick mentioned something that's really important. What we're trying to do in the software is, because I'm a contractor, I have the same problem set everybody else has. I got the same problem set Rick has. So we are doing the crawl, walk, run strategy as we fully enabled back office, right? There's really nothing left for me to do in the back office. It's fully automated. We make tweaks, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback in this summit on hey, could you add this data field, or could you add that data field? But no one's saying you're missing anything,
Right.
because we do it all already. But what we can still do is bring value by bringing these other partners. And for instance, one of the partners that was at the show, in fact, and spoke in my brief yesterday, that's coming on board the platform, we're working with them now, is Southern Tire Mart. And so you're going to be able to, if you do have a tire issue, TireView Live is going to say, Rick, you got an issue on this tire. And you're going to send Southern Tire Mart out there, and they're going to say, I got to replace that tire. You're going to get FedEx fleet pricing on that tire from MyGroundForce.
That's a sweet deal.
Oh.
I mean,
Whoa,
okay.
whoa, let's say with those words that you just said.
yeah,
FedEx fleet pricing on tires.
yes.
Walk me through the practicality. Like, what is that actually?
Well, that's a really good question, because they won't. The discount is so deep they won't tell me what it is. However, you will be able to. It will be billed to your T-check card, and it will show up on your settlement netted from your earnings.
Oh, shit.
You don't have to do anything.
You just glanced over that. Like, that's a huge deal. That's a really big fucking deal.
It's a big deal. And then what we do, MyGroundForce, obviously, is where the robots are analyzing your settlement. So we'll pull that number out of your settlement, put it in your maintenance records, and add it to your profitability by tractor analysis. So you didn't do anything. You had a tire problem, and I solved it for you, and put all the data in your system, and it happened on your T-check card. No one called you and said, hey, this card's not working or whatever. FedEx stands behind the T-check cards, so you're not going to get declined, right? And so you keep your truck running. And that's nationwide, because remember, Southern Tire Mart and bought Pilot Flying J Maintenance. And so it's a $3 billion company that sees value in being a MyGroundForce partner. And I don't make money off of that. I just add value to the system by bringing solutions so that Rick can find solutions nationwide to whatever issue he might have. The next customer that's coming on, next partner that's coming on board is Cox Fleet Services,
Okay.
which is also a nationwide supplier who just bought FleetNet. So now there's nowhere in the country that you won't be able to dispatch maintenance remotely from the software, from your recliner watching football, from your phone.
So I'm not calling anyone now?
You don't have to call anybody. In fact, FleetNet has approved MyGroundForce to build their customer-facing portal for FedEx Ground contractors. Right now, you have to call FleetNet. FedEx requires it. You won't have to do that within about 90 days.
How much fun are those calls right now? Okay, that answers it.
The standard, it could be worse, but the standard is 1 hour to wait when you call them, 1 hour to wait when you want an update. In the future, you'll just log into MyGroundForce, click on FleetNet,
Yeah.
open your ticket, 60 seconds, you're done. You have your reference number. And then you'll have a chat capability where you can get an update in 3 minutes. It's a guaranteed SLA. So then you go back, I wonder where this guy is. You chat with FleetNet, and in 3 minutes they'll give you the answer. Wow. So the thing about MyGroundForce is not that we do one thing. It's that we do about 50 things that all save you time and effort. So we talked about tires.
And the trick with MyGroundForce, which I am a customer, is to make sure you understand the system. You have to understand how to utilize that system and work it into your own business. And for us, we had a problem where we're using it, but we weren't really using it. I knew what my missing miles were, and I knew, what drivers were dispatching the high level stuff, but even to this day, I still don't know all of the details of what GroundForce can do. And every time we talk, or every time somebody on my team sends me something, like, where did this come from? We got it from GroundForce. And I think the trick is for anybody, when you are coming on and you are going to utilize GroundForce to help you run your business and help the robots take over, you have to really understand how to set that up. Is that true for the new contractors, people who have just bought a business? Man, I really want the insight to this. How can they best utilize that system?
Well, you know what? That's a great question. It's a great point, right? We all struggle with that, including in my company, because what MyGroundForce does is it brings a discipline to your company that you're not accustomed to having. Because right now you do everything manually, and you do it in a multitude of different systems. When I say systems,
Or you don't do it.
Or
which
you
is a
don't do
bigger
it.
problem.
And so the thing to keep in mind is I didn't build anything in MyGroundForce for fun. It's all required. There's no extra stuff in here for fluff. I mean, everything we do in MyGroundForce, you should be doing. You might not be doing it, but you should be doing it. And so then we automate it for you. And in the case of a new contractor, you want to get off to a good start. And the biggest thing that in all these training classes that we have, either seminars remotely or seminars here at the summit, a lot of them are to help new contractors stay compliant with the contract. That's what it boils down to, right? And I tell new contractors, we have a lot of them signed up with 3 trucks. And it's $100 a month to get 50 robots working for you. How cheap is that? What kind of value do you get from that? And if you use the system, you're contract compliant.
That's the trick. If you using the system, and I think the goal, and I know my goal is to better understand GroundForce, to pull out the efficiencies that I can create in my business, so that I can run a more automated, do exactly what everybody wants.
So
I want that passive automated business.
We do things that you don't really think about because you're like, that's too hard. So for instance, if you have to everything that you're documenting in MyGroundForce, you're already documenting somewhere else, or you should be, right? And so for instance, if you start using our system completely, you're documenting all your expenses in the system. Then we automatically update your profitability by tractor analysis. If you close a maintenance work order in our system, we do all that. This is the great thing about using robots like this is you can make one data entry, and I will leverage that data point in the 20 other places in your company that it's important, and you don't even have to know that. It just happens. So then, for instance, I had a bank call me the other day, Tim, can you give me your first quarter financials? So I went to MyGroundForce, click, 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 and sent it to them like 2 minutes later, because I have a profitability analysis.
So all your bookkeeping is done in MyGroundForce?
All my bookkeeping is done in MyGroundForce. My accountant has access to MyGroundForce.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
One-stop shop. I'm trying to find holes here.
Yeah.
I guess you just don't automate recruiting yet?
Not yet.
But
That's because I'm not allowed to.
that's fair.
Because look, all the recruiting that's going on for everybody, all funnels to the same location. It's called First Advantage.
Yep.
And there's
When
a
does
reason.
that get
There's a
into it?
reason why we have summit seminars on First Advantage. All right, so I can't touch that rock. They won't let us do it. But everything else that you do in a Linehaul company is automated. Look, if you came from the corporate world, and a lot of the new contractors are, right? They're
Sure.
business savvy. They
For
came
sure.
from other places. And in your previous life in the corporate world, your company had a system of record. Or
All metrics, everything metric based.
they likely would not still be a corporation if they didn't have a system of record in which they can survive all the things that go on in the business, people leaving, new people coming in. So what happens when you come into a corporation? You go through orientation, and they teach you the system of record. So think about MyGroundForce is a corporate system of record. Everything that goes on in your company should be in the system. There should be no place where you put information other than MyGroundForce, because then you take your entire company with you on your phone.
Good point.
Give me a reason a FedEx contractor should be excited, positive. What's some things happening that you're seeing for a reason for people to want to buy into this space?
Good question.
Oh, from the FedEx Linehaul perspective. Okay, so I'm a FedEx contractor. People are like, Tim, why are you a contractor, right? I'm like, when I got out of the startup world and I was looking for a place to invest my money, I looked at a ton of business models. I mean, I spent 3 years studying business models. You name it, I studied it. And when you look at the reasons small businesses go out of business, because remember, I was a Navy pilot, and it was just important for us to figure out how we were going to get back to the ship is how we got to the target, right? So you got to have an exit strategy for everything you do. If you don't know how you're going to get out of it, you don't want to get into it.
Is this some kind of joke or something?
I thought it was off.
This is so unprofessional.
I know, I'm sorry.
That was not
Apologize.
MyGroundForce beeping, by the way.
No, it's because I don't have it.
It might have been the Tire View Live system telling your driver they had a low tire. It could have been that. So
Navy pilot.
that's right. So here are the reasons to be a FedEx contractor. These haven't changed. You get paid every week. The number one reason companies go out of business is cash flow. You can have a great business idea, but if you can't get paid, you're going out of business. But in FedEx, you get paid every week, so you cash flow your business. You don't have to win, you don't have to keep old business or win new business. You just have to do your job. That stuff happens, right? You don't have to do sales and marketing. You have a $33 billion company doing that for you. FedEx Ground, FedEx Corporate as a whole carries 15% of the US GDP every day. Okay, so they're not going anywhere, right? So you don't have to worry about,
Never heard it in those terms.
right, you don't have to worry about, oh, well, what if they went out of business? They're not going out of business. Okay, so that as a small business owner, your partner is as resilient as any partner in the world. And so now those are the good things.
Mm-hmm.
The bad things are your customer is a Fortune 50 company. Okay, it's like doing business with the Pentagon. We all have our complaints, but think about the challenges they face.
Mm-hmm.
They're carrying 15% of the US GDP every day. That is not an easy problem to whack, okay?
Insane.
All right, so they have, just in Ground alone, 6,000 small business partners. That is not an easy nut to crack right there on how you manage those and keep the playing field level and keep everything moving. So I'm not defending FedEx, but you have to understand they have a hard problem to manage. And so they also have more lawyers than you have trucks.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why it's such a challenge to deal with FedEx, because you really
Right.
don't have a whole lot of leverage. But if you can run your business efficiently, FedEx is going to leave you alone. Because there's too many other guys to focus on who aren't doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so this is one of the great things about MyGroundForce. If you will use it, you will run your business extremely efficiently. You will save a lot of money. I saved in my company alone using MyGroundForce about $400,000 a year over what
Yeah.
I was doing before. I can prove it to you. I mean, people say, "Oh, you own it." No, man, I'm a contractor.
Just call Tim.
$400,000 is a big number in this business.
We know why people want to come into FedEx.
Right.
Give me your future outlook. What's the positive things that are happening right now?
Well, I think we're surmising what we think the positive things are because we really don't have any information. But what we do know is this Network 2.0 thing that they're talking about, or the one network, whatever terminology that they're using, means that they're going to combine the express business and the ground business. And there's a lot of reasons to do that. You know, they lost their ass on 7-day delivery, right? They lost $500 million in 1 year, and this is why they killed all the Saturday runs. But that forced them to also figure out, man, where the investors have forced them to say, we got express trucks and ground trucks in the same neighborhood multiple times a day. That has to go away. And that's a huge challenge for them because we all know the express systems are better than the ground systems, right? And so they have to figure out how to resolve that. And one of their big challenges right now on the ground side is we don't do time deliveries on the ground P&D side. As long as you get it there on the day it's due, it's okay. But on the express side, you have to do time deliveries. And so that's a gap, and they got to figure out how to close that gap and get P&D contractors involved in that, which is another mountain to climb, right? So you got 4,000 P&D contractors that you have to get on that path. So there's some logistical challenges, but I think when we come through this tunnel, it's going to be tumultuous, I think, for the next year or two, because our partner is going to be in a tumultuous state.
Right.
And they have a lot of really smart people working on it, but when it comes out the other end, then where the advantages are for linehaul contractors is there's going to be a lot more volume than we have right now because the express volume is primarily going to move over, right? They just parked another 28 planes, right? So what folks might not know is the most things that are moving from the FedEx Ground world or FedEx Express world in the planes is really international cargo.
Mm-hmm.
So because customers in China, as an example, or anywhere in Asia are like, I can put this thing on a boat for 45 days and I have a lot of money tied up in inventory that's not earning me any money, or I can fly it overnight and I can start earning money on that investment, on that inventory. And this is the
same cash flow concerns.
right. So it's this same problem we have as contractors, right? How do we manage cash flow? And that's where Express has a lot of value. But ground mile shipping something overnight, that's not really happening anymore, right? So these are really kind of commercial shipments that end up going to some consumers, but also businesses.
Right.
And that has been moving in FedEx Express trailers, that if it's not being flown, and that's going to come into the ground network. And so that will give us some opportunities. But however, keep in mind that they just cut 7-day delivery
Okay.
all over the network. And if you're like me, you took a 12 to 15% revenue hit when they cut all your Saturday night runs, right? And so there's some surplus power capacity existing in the ground network. So you shouldn't automatically think we're going to get this surge, because we need volume to get us back to where we were 12 months ago.
Right.
And so how long is that going to take? I don't know, maybe a year from now, volume will get back to where it needs to be.
We don't think that there's a lot of power that left the market based on volume concerns.
Well, that's hard to say. I think, I'll just talk about my experience, and I'm in 8 domiciles, so I'm not in one where I'm looking through a straw. I'm seeing it through multiple hubs. There are some lanes that run every day like clockwork. There are other lanes that are up and down. And on the unassigned rotation, it is seriously up and down. It's more down than up. And so then you can assume that there's probably, 20-25% overpowered in the unassigned rotation.
Depending on the market.
Depending on the market, right? Now, where that's not true is teams. Teams are really running. I mean, I think if you talk to assigned teams, unassigned teams, wild teams, all those guys are running. FedEx needs that environment. They took a big hit during COVID, and they're still getting back to having enough teams to do everything. If you have a team truck, FedEx will find something for you to do. But the solo market in the hubs on the unassigned rotation is still a challenge, and you have to be cognizant of that if you want to buy in. You have to understand what you're doing, and if you're an existing contractor. I mean, I've got a truck in Olive Branch that I've had for 5 years, and it's running once or twice a week right now. I mean, I'm at the top of the list, but there's no volume there on a consistent basis. We'll have a good week or two, and then we won't have a good week or two. So that's probably true all over the country, and that's because of this. If you look at the FedEx quarterly report, you can see it, right? They were down $2 billion. That's a lot of packages. So that'll turn around as they start to move more of express volume into the ground network, and we can start to maybe use that unassigned rotation on a more consistent basis, and then there'll be some growth opportunities. But you're not seeing a lot of runs get posted right now.
Right. And so I want to try to sum that up with one question, which is, if I'm someone looking at this space looking to get in, would you recommend I get in now? And is there that opportunity for me to become a larger contractor within a reasonable 1 to 2 year time frame?
Well, look, I think it's always a good time to get into the FedEx Ground network, because the reasons I got in that we talked about, those reasons still exist. There's still good reasons. You're still getting paid every week. Or even if you only have 3 trucks.
Yep.
As long as you're working, those 3 trucks are running, you're getting paid every week. And that's huge.
And where else does that exist in trucking?
It doesn't exist in any business.
Has anything come close?
Yeah, it doesn't exist in any business. And look, I can't complain. I've been a success story at FedEx Ground. I started with 3 trucks on July 1st, 2018. And in 2 years, I was running over 50. And I went from 1 domicile to 9 in 2 years. So it can be done. Now, that was pre-COVID.
Right.
So things are a lot different now, right? And you have to be cognizant of that COVID changed everything for us, because we had a Zoom, the snake swallowed the pig, and we've been trying to deal with that for the past couple of years, and now volume has come back down. So it'll right size again. So it's never a bad time to buy into FedEx Ground. It's probably a better time now than it was 2 years ago, because honestly, line haul businesses were going for a higher price a year ago than they are now.
And the truck, you're paying double on the trucks.
You're paying more on the trucks, and so you have to have this is one of the most important things you can do when you get into business, is you need to have a strategy on how you're going to manage capital. And you need to really understand, if you're going to run solo, that $160,000 new truck might not be able to cash flow it on a solo run. Yep. So you have to do that kind of analysis. This is not for the faint of heart business, right? REL has $145 million in loans that they have leased trucks to contractors. It's a big capital number to be in this business, and so you have to have a strategy on how you do that. And the thing about a strategy is, once you establish it, this is the way you're going to run your business, you need to stick to the strategy. You can't move around to whichever way the wind is blowing. And it's different for solos than it is for teams, etc. But it's still a good business to get into. It's probably better now to get into it than it was a year ago, because look, the line haul businesses have been devalued a little bit. Look, if you look at my business, they cut my revenue 15%. So if you're looking at financials, you're like, wow, he did this in 2022.
Mhm.
Well, there's no way I can do that in 2023 unless something changes, right? Volume is going to have to show up in the network that's not there right now, because they cut one of my 7 days. So, and if you're a smart investor, you already know that because it's been announced all over the world that we're reducing 7-day delivery, and you're going to discount my 2022 financials accordingly. So that means that I had a business theoretically that did 15% more revenue last year that you can buy for what amounts to a 15% discount this year. So it's still a good time to come in. You just have to be smart on how you do it. The challenge we all face, look, there's never one right answer. I mean, people come to these summits, and I've said it every time I talk, you can't just do what I do. You have to do what works in your business. You still need a system of record, but how you think about your business is important, and there's not one right answer. But one of the big changes, trucks are more expensive. Interest rates are up, so the cost of capital is way more expensive, including if you're buying in. You know, if you're buying runs, and you're financing that, then your cost to entry is higher because of the interest rates. Now, 2 years from now, you might be able to refinance that to a lower rate, but you got to be sophisticated in your financial savvy to be able to forecast that and work that into your long-term business model.
And that goes back to you keeping the records and managing them properly.
Yes.
MyGroundForce.
Let's finish with give us an understanding. Give me an understanding. I have a Ground Force customer, and I have trucks in Houston.
Yeah.
I want to sign up for the fuel saver, the tire pressure. What are we calling? What's the system?
Tire View Live.
The Tire View Live system. What do I do? What's the step-by-step process before I can monitor my tire pressure?
Yeah, you can just reach out to MyGroundForce, and we'll handle it from there. And look, this is what you get. This is what happened in my company. I bought the Tire View Live program. We got it $500 less on the hardware than anybody else in the country. And then we pair that with professional installation that comes to your facility and does it at all your locations. You're in more than one location. We'll go to all your locations, put the system on there, enable it, get it talking to the cloud, and it will be enabled in MyGroundForce. You haven't done anything. Then we finance it for you for 6 months at no interest. Well, I'm a contractor, and I told these guys, I want to put this program together, but contractors cannot afford to cough up all this cash up front. I'm not going to do it. And I know contractors you got to be cognizant of cash flow. We talked about that already. And you're not going to throw tens of thousands of dollars on the front end. But you could take it in bite-sized chunks because that system is saving you $200 a month per truck. And so you're paying for it with found money, right? And so then you get through 6 or 7 months, it's paid off. By the way, you have free Velo Care on all your electronics. Anybody have any problems with their Lytix cameras or their Trimble ELDs? And you're like, how do I get this fixed? Well, now you go into MyGroundForce, you say, come fix my Lytix camera, and they show up. To your location where the truck is. And it's all in the system, and we bring all that data back in so you have a system of record, right?
Amazing.
And so that's how you do it, Rick. And it works all over the country. These are big partners, right? Velocity has 2,500 installation guys. They can do everything all over the country every day. And so we're bringing a set of scale to you that you couldn't get on your own. Look, here's the advantage of MyGroundForce. This is what I hear from big billion-dollar partners. They would not come after this market one contractor at a time. The sales cost of that is too high. But MyGroundForce can aggregate that contractor base into one customer. And so then they get access to the entire 17,000 truck fleet through one channel. That's how they see it. So if you want access to billion-dollar partners, even though you're a 5-truck company and you're doing $1.5 million a year, you can come to MyGroundForce and we do the work for you.
Amazing. Yep. So if you want to get as close to automated as possible,
But not completely automated.
but almost,
Not First Advantage.
maybe one day, yet, MyGroundForce, we're going to put all your contact info. We're going to put his number right here.
Let's
Or
put it right
contact.
here, right now.
There you go. Tim, thank you so much.
It's
Appreciate
a
your
pleasure,
time.
gentlemen. It's good to see y'all.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for the invite.
Of course.
Thank you, Rocket.
Bye.